think you're coming through
Hello?
now.
Okay.
Hey, we are back.
Hey.
I think you guys can hear Lotus now. Is that correct?
Hey, can you guys hear me now? Hello?
Hey, chat. Say something if you can hear Lotus. Cool.
Okay.
All right. So, my cam went out, so now we have a completely different problem. But that's a much more fixable problem in the short term. So, as we were saying, welcome to HearthCenter. It's week 6. I'm Donde. He is Lotus Knight. Lotus, since they couldn't hear your
Hey.
response the first time, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy week, but things are going well. Playing a good amount of Hearthstone, having some good co-ops the recent days. How are you doing, Donde?
I'm good. Haven't had much time to play outside of my matches since last week, but I, getting used to the new N'Zoth meta, I guess you would call it at this point.
Yeah.
It's definitely a far cry from what we were experiencing in the first half of the season, but it's kind of nice to get a little bit of an update to the decks. Not be completely locked into one thing for too many weeks. But it's fun.
Yeah, I think things are evolving into a very interesting direction.
Ooh, okay. That's a little preview.
Yeah.
Speaking of previews, so what we're doing tonight, we're going to talk about Legacy and Hero, the power rankings, of course, player power rankings up through week 5. Challenger, as you know, it is live now, and we're going to talk about that, talk about kind of what we expect in the meta there, and also, some of the players that we expect to do well. And we'll also be previewing a few matches from it tonight in our Week 6 preview. We'll also be talking about the Pro Playoff race, which is a 1 week shorter season than both Legacy and Hero, so there's only 2 weeks left in Pro, and it is extremely tight. So that should be interesting to see how that comes down to the wire, and we will talk about it, make a few predictions that will inevitably be wrong, and that's part of the fun. So,
No.
No, you don't think they're going to be
Definitely
wrong?
not.
So your first prediction is that our predictions won't be terrible.
No, they'll 100% be wrong.
Okay.
No chance we get them right.
Well, I hope you're correct. I'm not 100% confident myself. So that's that's where we're going tonight. So why don't we get started? Power rankings. First off, let's go ahead and bring up Legacy. So as we did last week, actually before we go on to the top 10 and the honorable mention from last week, we are going to want to take a look at the players that dropped out of the power rankings. So let me pull that up real quick. Boy, nothing is working tonight. OBS had an update like before, and then I don't know. I think it just got all jacked up.
Yeah, it seems a little weird right now.
I assure you guys, this is professionally run. All right, I found it. It's working. So these 4 players hit the concede button in the bottom right, and they have dropped out of the top 15. They were all honorable mentions last week, so they weren't actually in the top 10. As you can see, they are all from the Red Conference: Myanodon, Desharmo, Surlos, and Base. Base is the only one of the 4 who got a win last week and dropped out. He was already right teetering on the edge, and a couple players, due to the strength of some of their wins, did pass him. So these are all players that are still in the hunt, of course, with a few weeks to go, and could easily make their way back into the top 15. Any shockers there to you, Lotus?
I still think Desharmo playing the 3/4 slot is wrong. That just should never happen. So I expect him to be a lot higher, and I would not be surprised if he grows a lot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely he's a player that's always very competitive in whatever seed he's going to play, but he's certainly underseeded where he is right now. So you're correct, and
Yes,
yeah, it's it is always shocking to see him a bit lower than at least the 2 seed.
right. Especially, I believe he's doing really well in Hero, and he tends to be better in Hero than Legacy. But yeah, it's kind
Right.
of surprising.
And we will talk about Hero in a second, but first, now we are ready to review the top 10 and honorable mentions for Legacy this week. As we've been doing, I'm just going to reveal them all so you get full context on everything, and then that way, you can just make fun of me right out of the gate. So, here, without further ado, is your power rankings for Legacy this week. You can see the honorable mentions. There's 5 players down there, of course. 3 of them were unranked last week. That'd be obviously Madievs and Copper Talon, all at 4-1. Shimjim fell from 7 as he was defeated to go to 4-1 as well. So he's still in the top 15. Starlax was an honorable mention, is sticking in the honorable mentions this week at 4-1 as well. And all these players, the records very close, the strength schedule very close. So they're all pretty interchangeable, I think, at this point. And then, of course, once you get to the top 10, you start to see some separation. So as we move into the top 10, we see that one of the biggest fallers of the week was Daravis, who suffered his first loss of the season. He fell all the way from 2 to 10 with a loss to, it was Comp, who, you know, spoiler alert, he's still undefeated and killing it at 15-1. But that was, I guess, I'm not surprised that Comp won based on how well he's playing, but are you surprised it was a sweep over Daravis, Lotus?
I mean, I'm always surprised. Daravis is a great player. I expected him to lose at some point because this is Hearthstone. You can't go forever without losing.
Really?
Um, it was very long, but you cannot go forever without losing. No. And Daravis has put quite a show.
Yeah, he's a great
Uh,
player. Yeah, it's been impressive to watch him start his THL experience with just win after win over fantastic players. And Comp took
right,
at least one season, maybe 2 off, and came back and apparently hasn't missed a beat.
right,
And Pond drops 8 places for losing to 1. He dropped 8 places for not even picking up a game against rank 1. So it's less about his loss and more about the fact that he wasn't even able to pick up a game. And his record at 12-7 is now below some of the other 4-1 players, such as Super Murloc, who you see at 8. He dropped 5 spots, but he has 2 more game wins than Daravis does at this point. So I guess the only other thing I would say is that maybe there was some consternation, I guess, about the 5-0s that were not in the top 3 or 4 last week. And Catman moved up from 10 to 6. Honest Abe moved up from 8 to 7. I still think the strength of schedule of Mr. Shad's, Icicles, Dano, and Ridiculous Hat is what is keeping them above them at this point.
right. Our hat has had quite a season and faced some great players, so it definitely makes sense that he's this high. Uh, although the numbers seem a little weird because 2 losses would not mean you're 4-1. That would mean you're 5. So I'm not sure if one of the, it might be 14-4 or something like that.
What do you mean? Are you talking about Mr. Shad's?
So no, our hat having 14. Does that mean he only lost 2 games?
Oh, you might be right. I think that might be a typo on my part.
Yeah, that might be a typo, but it's fine. It happens.
Yeah.
I should have detected it earlier. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I posted it last night. I didn't catch it. It must be. I think it's 14-4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what the number I would expect. He's playing really well though. It's been a great season for him.
Yes.
Mr. Shads has always been underrated, and it's not a surprise at all to see him coming up. I am very happy for Catman and Honest Abe though. They seem to be doing very well playing the 1. I think that they are both in the 1. So yeah.
Yeah. They are both 1 seeds right now, and Catman, a player that we will talk about a little bit later too. Both very strong players, and I expect them to continue to win. I think you've mentioned it before. The Gold Conference is kind of where those 1 seeds are stacked a little bit harder than in the Red
Yes.
Conference, so it is going to, possibly bring those other gold 1 seeds down in line with the red ones. So that I think will be kind of something to watch as we go on for the rest of the season here. And to answer the question, yes, it is 14-5 for Ridiculous Hat, and not 14 and
Okay.
2. You know, 2 is like a backwards 5.
Sure.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
that's that's my excuse. That's what we're gonna go with.
That's fine.
So
He still deserves the position he's in. It's
yeah, no,
totally fair.
it definitely doesn't change anything. I mean, Mr. Shads would have the same record as him, but Ridiculous Hat has the slightly stronger strength of schedule on my sheet here, so that is fine, and I'm comfortable leaving it the way that it is with Ridiculous Hat at 2.
Yeah, definitely correct.
All right. Any last comments before we go and move on to Hero?
I'm going to shout out to Super Murloc, who's in my legacy team and has been doing. He's a great player. He did lose this week, but I think he'll climb back and just continue to perform better.
Yeah, no, he did fall this week as noted earlier from 3-8 with a loss, but 4-1 at this stage of the season is more than adequate. He's definitely helping his team out, and he's been a great addition to THL not only as a player for the teams, but he's also it seems like a good dude in chat, very active in the THL Discord. So
Yeah.
a welcome addition to the league, and he did lose to Quirky Turtle, which was a week's worth of entertainment for the rest of us because she talked a lot of trash and backed it up.
Yeah. One more thing I just want to add is, especially to all the players, this week was a very weird week because we had a big change. And that's the kind of week that it's really hard to see where it goes. So don't feel bad if you lost. It's just a very unstable week. It will get back to normal basically from this week onwards, unless we get a nerf patch.
Yeah, it's tough because there was, a lot of players I'm sure use stats, HS Replay, Vicious Syndicate, etc. And when the meta shifts like that because of the introduction of new cards, be it this
Yes.
event or, an entire new expansion, there's no concrete data yet. So it's really hard to do anything outside of taking your own personal experiences, into account. You play on ladder, you've played against a few decks that have crushed you, or you've played a few decks that are really hot, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily translate over to a conquest or hero, last hero standing lineup, and it's hard to know that until you actually do play series. So the practice in those first weeks is really important, and just prepping in general. So I think that's really hard for a lot of people. Some don't have as much time and really lean on the statistics of the websites to kind of dictate what their lineup should be, or even their lists should be, and that really lets the more creative, I think, juices shine in this first week.
Yeah, there's also the fact that people with limited collections, especially for 4 seeds and 5 seeds, will suffer a because they might have collection optimized for the lineup they were looking for before. But maybe right now, Paladin is the new top class, and now they don't have Paladin anymore.
Correct, and luckily for them, they will have that same plight against other people who will potentially be in the same situation as them, also playing the 4 and the
Yes.
5 seeds. That's not always the case. As we mentioned, someone like Desharmo, who was down in like the 4 seed,
Right.
is not a 4 seed caliber player a lot of the time when it comes to his collection.
No.
And yeah, that's definitely an advantage for him. So that's it's a very good point.
Yep.
So let's move on to Hero. We've got let's start with the players that dropped out of the top 15, just as we did with Legacy. So we got 3 players. Brushy Tuna fell from 7. 2-star Mako dropped from 8, and Jim Philos was a honorable mention, and he dropped out as well. So all these players are now 3 and 2, still very much alive in the final chase, but just a step below the remaining players who are going to all have better records, as you will see shortly. Any thoughts there, Lotus?
I think these are all good players. I'm of them to bounce back. Yeah, it's also they're definitely not far from the top 15. So if we probably look at the top 20, I'm sure they're all around there. So yeah, I would expect them to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, they're all still certainly in the top 20, I would say. And I'm sorry, I did mention that every player above them has a better record, but there is one player in the top 15 who does have a 3-2 record. So all with the exception of one, only room for one, I suppose, and we made the choice. So, yeah, I would say Brushy, 2-star, and Jim Philos all very capable of getting back into the top 15 in short order. They didn't fall too far out of that top 15. So, before we move on, anything else to say about them, or should we take a look at the top 15?
I don't think I have anything in particular. I don't think.
All
yeah.
Right. Well, here comes your top 15.
Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now.
Sorry, I just had to bask for a second. I've never I never imagined that I would be number one, and I know this is super rigged.
It is rigged.
No bias whatsoever to it. I never thought that would happen. So when we literally gets intro song. When we made the show like a year ago, I was sitting here just saying the first time, I was like, if this ever happens, I can't even imagine how I possibly say anything about myself.
Do you want me to do it?
You go right ahead. You can take it away. Just go right ahead.
So in Hero, we have in the number one position Donde, who no one knows who it is, but might be around. He's had a 5-0 record. He's one of the only 2 players who are still 5-0. And as I said last week, I congratulate Coles again. He's been doing amazing and just a great coach overall.
I'm sure he's happy to hear that.
But yeah, congratulations on being 5-0 so far. I want to see you keep it till the end, though.
Yes, it's Jammy's at number 2. He was number 1 last week, and he did lose this past week. But I think him sticking at 2 shows just how far ahead of everybody he was at 12-3. Even though he did lose and did get swept, it's still. He's got a very strong strength schedule, and he's just barely ahead of Omzi there, who one of the wins, unfortunately, being a DQ win, meant he didn't get game score for those games. So that's going to stick Omzi at rank 3 this week.
Right. I would not be surprised if Omzi pretty soon climbs to 1 or 2 either. These are all great players playing really well, so yeah, looking forward to their matches.
I would say if all goes well this week, that is, no PR changes or anything like that, and the wins, Omzi and I are set to play next week in the final non-crossover week of the Hero Series. So that could be, I had to play Typical Tyrant this week, and shout out to Typical Tyrant who's in 10th right now. That was a very tough series. He's a very, very good player. That's the first time we've ever played against each other, and that was a very, very tough series. So that was a crossover match since he's in teal, but purple's kind of doing the whole gold thing with the 2 seeds, where every 2 seed is pretty stacked over in purple this season.
Right.
And as we run further down the list, we do see a group of 3 players that moved up from honorable mention on fall 8-bit 2s. They're all 4-1 now, 14-7, 13-6, and 14-6 respectively. So big jumps for them to get not only into the top 10, but in the top 6.
Yeah. They're all really solid players. They're doing a great job. I can talk more about 2 since I've played with him for quite a while. I know he's been putting a lot of work. He's been focusing a lot in Hero. He enjoys the format, I feel like, the most out of the series. So it's been really good for him.
Yeah, I would say that I'm enjoying Hero the most right now as well. I kind of started feeling that way last season. I feel like you can be a bit more creative with your lineups in Hero because of the fact that a polarized matchup is not as deadly to you as it is in Legacy, where, hey, you have to win with this deck, and if you just happen to run into a brick wall with it, you're completely screwed. But, in Last Hero Standing, you lose with the deck and you're done, and you can still move on and recover. So I do tend to like that with the closed list a bit better. But yeah.
Right.
Other things of note here in the top 10, DeSharmo, of course, jumping up. He was completely unranked last week, and he moves all the way into the top 8 at 4-1 with a DQ win and a 10-4 record. Mr. Shads continues to be kind of the crossover favorite right now, at least between these two series, ranked 3 in Legacy, ranked 7 in Hero, so that's pretty strong across the board, even though he did slip just a little bit from last week from 5 to 7. And Snake, our last player in the top 10, he went up just one spot from 10 to 9, 4-1. He's got 2 DQ wins this season. People just don't want to play him. They just don't want to show up.
It sounds like everyone's afraid of playing against Snake.
I mean, he's 2-1 outside of the 2 DQ wins, so he's still got a winning record. But yeah,
right.
It's never fun to get the DQ wins. I'd always rather play. But Shiny Pants fell out of the top 10. He was our remaining 3-2 player that did stick. Blue Spartan and Sanguine jump into the honorable mentions. They were unranked last week. Ron Mexico stays in the honorable mentions. And Lotus, you are still hanging on at number 15. You were ranked 9 last week. Took a little bit of a fall. Any thoughts on your match? Anything you want to tell us without giving away too many strategic deck choices?
Yeah, it's hard to say the one statement I would say without breaking the rules of please don't say what the people played. I did get high rolled really hard. I'm going to say that much. But honestly, it was a great match. Bill is a very nice guy, and I enjoy when I have a game with a player that I just talk the whole time and we just have a fun conversation. And that was one of them. We were just talking for so long via chat messages.
I am a big Bill Snyder, aka Corbin fan. He's always been. Actually, we ended up. I think we met outside of THL, either in like an open cup or something before he joined THL. But it's good. He hasn't been. I don't think he's playing in all the series like he had been in the past. Maybe stepping a little bit back from Hearthstone, but he's still around. And good to have him here for sure. Nice guy.
Yeah, he is currently playing Fortnite, I can tell you that much.
Okay. I thought nobody was playing Fortnite. I thought the world ended or something. That isn't showing my very limited Fortnite knowledge. I heard something about like a black hole happening at the end of a season.
See, I've never played Fortnite, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
That was even more limited in your knowledge than I am in mine. So yeah.
I know people shoot there.
That is true. That is a thing. I played Apex Legends for a month and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my only Battle Royale experience, and I was just like, there's no sense of progression. I don't want to play this anymore.
No. It's not for me. The only Battle Royale I've played, this is a total digression, but I've played just classic Super Mario Battle Royale. Oh, there's a website that does that, and it's hilarious.
All right. That sounds interesting, at least.
It is interesting. It's kind of bad.
Well, let's talk about more actual Hearthstone-related things, which might be what our actual, our audience is interested in.
Right.
We'll talk more about that other stuff later. But we're going to talk about Challengers. So, as you guys know, this is the format that is a 4-week Swiss format that cuts to a top 8, and it mirrors what you would see in the qualifiers, like the Arlington qualifier right now, where it is a best-of-3 conquest and with a ban. So this is just getting going this week. In fact, it is so fresh. There's literally only one match played so far. So shout out to Pasca for being the leader in the clubhouse at 1-0 right now, and shout out to Boozosaurus for being 0-1. But hey, you played, so can't lose if you don't play. But a lot of players, I think it's awesome to see. There's a lot of names in this list of people who are either new to THL or have not played very much in THL, and I think this is a great opportunity for these players to get acquainted with some of the people in THL and how we like to operate, and not have to worry about latching onto a team right away. So is there anything meta-wise that you expect to see here in Challenger, right? In the first few weeks at the very least?
Sure. So I played an Open Cup this weekend actually, just to get a feel for the meta, since it is similar to a lot of it seems to be going around Aggro Warrior and Tempo Rogue and Combo Priest and Shaman, of course. But Shaman is kind of the ban of choice a lot of times.
Very much so.
So I would expect to see these decks a lot. I would expect a good amount of Hunter, just Highlander Hunter still being a very powerful deck. And there are a few other decks that might be popping in and out, but I think it will be, overall, it will be very similar to the Open Cup format. Few decks might be trying to be countered. In particular, the last tournaments, there was a lot of trying to counter Combo Priest.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a weird decision to me because Combo Priest is one of those decks that's not, I wouldn't say it's uncounterable, but it's hard to because it can just high roll on turn 4, and if they have the combo, you just lose. But even then, it seems to still win against decks that are designed to beat it because nothing really has a spread against it that's more than maybe like 45, 46%. Against Combo Priest, at least that I can remember off the top of my head, anyway.
So Aggro Shaman does.
Okay.
Aggro Shaman is still
maybe?
strong. It's probably going to be getting to the 40% range. At least that was last I looked at it. There's still Highlander Hunter. There are decks that you can build. Like, I faced Phenom, and he had a very weird warrior deck, which played Akali the Rhino. Oh. And it was kind of a mid-range rushy warrior deck, but just with a lot of tools to target Combo Priest. And I'm pretty sure that deck is super favorable. But it's not a normal deck. And if your opponent says, you know what, I don't want to bring Priest, because I think you just lose to that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of hanging out there with no strategy at that point. So it's it's tough to call when it's only 3 decks and you only have to get 2 wins best of 3, and it tends to be I would say you concentrate your efforts on the decks that you know are really, really good, and you don't necessarily try to be too creative with like fancy decks that maybe target at one specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you're correct. We'll see probably a steady diet of Priest, Shaman, Warrior, of course, and maybe some Paladin as well. I think those are probably your 4 most likely to be played classes. So have you taken a look at the list of players that are in? I know you're playing as well. I'm personally not playing Challenger, but have you taken a look at the list of players that we have?
I have. I still don't know who I'm playing because of some issues, but I have taken a look at the Challenger Series play.
Yes, yeah. You're the only one who does not know their opponent right now.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. It will be fine. I know there's not going to be any issue, but I think we have a lot of great players. I'm expecting a lot of game coming out of Liquid Ox, Lawful Dog, Catman,
Lawful Dog
Skittles.
and Catman are playing this week too.
Yes, I think that's going to be a great game.
I think there's quite a few of the NPH players in here, and also shout out to them. If you haven't checked out the No Pros Here meta report, that can certainly help you make your lineup for Challenger, as they talk about the meta report from the Open Cups, which is the same format as we're talking about. So if you head on over either to their Discord or noproshere.com, shout out to them for Pasca, and I believe Wicked Good is the data architect behind a lot of what they do there. So definitely want to go ahead and direct you guys over that way, so that way you can see what some of the top players were bringing these past. I think it was just for either the past weekend or maybe the first 2 weekends. But either way, there's a lot of good information to parse through there. So definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, if we got the time, check some lineups versus the opponent's lineups. Stu, do you mean like the lineups that people have signed up with so far, or are you talking about the lineups over with NPH?
One thing just so far, while you wait for the answer, no player has not submitted Shaman, which
correct
surprises no one really.
I don't think anyone's shocked by that.
Yeah, I feel like Shaman's going to be everywhere, and it's going to be quite a common. It seems like there's quite a good spread here. I'm seeing everything right now. I can't say that.
Yeah, if you go to TeamHearthLegends.com and go to Challenger at the top, you can actually see for yourself exactly what's been picked so far, and the limited bans that have
Yes.
been provided. Just only a few of them so far as 2 matches. It looks like one's about to get underway because there's a ban submitted. Um, but yeah, we have 12 shaman out of 12 submissions, and then 8 priests out of 12 submissions, and then it drops down significantly to 4 for paladin, 4 for hunter, and 3 for druid, 2 for rogue, and warrior. And warrior, actually only 2 warriors is kind of surprising a little bit, I suppose. 1 mage and warlock is the odd class out with no submissions so far. So if you feel saucy and you have not submitted yet, warlock Gul'dan would love to show you what he can do, which is like pretty much Zoo.
Yeah. Also, just of note, if you're going Challenger, someone did win by bringing Zoo this weekend. The
That is
Open
true.
Cup on Sunday was won by. So definitely something to think about.
So just to challenge accepted CMAC, if anybody was going to do it, I knew CMAC would be the one to do it. Speaking of CMAC, let's run through the all the matches here, and if there's anything that you want to talk about specifically, we'll jump on it. But so Ace is playing Mike Lowe, Agent PWE is playing Kazgar, Based Inc., a new player, is playing Silver T Fox. Demon. Base is playing Disco. Boozosaurus already played Pasca. Brick is playing THL Loomer, who is a player that I do not know very well, but a lot of people who have been around THL for quite some time speak very highly of Loomer. So I think, knowing nothing other than what I've been told, I'm expecting big things out of him. Do you know anything about Loomer?
No, I don't. I don't know if he's from my time here or before that, but
yeah, I think we both entered
know.
right around the same time, so ultimately we would not know much about him. But he's apparently an old head, and looking forward to seeing if he lives up to the hype. A match that should live up to the hype: Catman versus Lawful Dog, as we mentioned. C-Mac versus Saku.
Yeah.
Dano versus Skittles, another great match. We'll maybe talk a little bit more about that one in a bit, I'm sure. Let's see. Diego Centric is playing Mad at Arms. I'm trying to parse out the ones that I've already read because I just don't want to be repeating myself. Pond, aka Free Hong Kong, playing Snake Fods. Liquid Ox playing Super Murloc. Lotus, you are playing Mystery Opponent X right now. Maybe
Yes.
we'll know by the end of the show, but who knows. Nerdstrom playing Triss. Nine Eyebrows playing 2-Star Mako. And Shiny Pants playing Thunder Pig 77, another new player that I'm not familiar with. And that's it. That's everybody. So, good luck to everyone playing in Challenger this week. And I'm interested to see, once we get a week's worth of data, exactly what the lineups look like, and what's doing well, what's not. And
right.
Yeah. Stu is Skittles. Okay. I guess I didn't realize that you were the same person.
It is your match is really good, Skittles. I think it'll be a fun match this week.
And we might talk a little bit more about it later. No spoilers. But
no.
Let's we'll come back to Challenger. We'll let you guys kind of take in all the sites there.
One question for you, Donde. Are any of the Challenger matches on stream?
That is a great question. I will have to look in to see what we have going on this weekend. I know that Friday didn't have any, as far as I'm aware, but Saturday and Sunday should be wide open. So that's a good point. If anybody out there is playing a Challenger match, or really any other match, and you want to be on stream, let us know. Friday, 9 p.m., Saturday, 8 or 9 p.m., Sunday, kind of flexible. We'll find a team that can cast you. So if you want to be on stream, if you've never played in THL before, everyone is welcome to be on stream. You just have to agree with your opponent that you would like to be streamed, and we will do it for you. And so it'll be right here on this Twitch channel. It'll be casted, often professionally, sometimes by Quaz. He's not even here. It's a great joke, but he's not even here, so it's not. It doesn't hit as hard. But you guys can let him know that I burned him later. That's good. Playing midday Sunday. Actually, midday Sunday might not be bad. Sunday, like I said, is pretty flexible, so we can see if we can get something going. But yeah, yep. If you do want to be on stream, hit the forum or message myself in Discord, Donde or Saku, and we will make it happen. So always looking for matches. We are gonna start actually sending out email blasts next week to everybody rather than doing it by the forum, just because the forum hasn't been as effective as I'd hoped, and that will hopefully allow us to consistently get the word out and let people know that, hey, we want your matches before you schedule, so that way you will schedule with the stream in mind. So hopefully that helps get everyone some access to the stream. Time zone for all these times is Eastern. So 8 p.m. Eastern is our normal stream start for Friday and Saturday night as well, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that is what you should plan on if you are looking to be on stream. So how about Pro? Pro playoff race, like we said earlier, it's 2 weeks left, and it's insanely close. Like,
yes,
I couldn't even imagine. Like, I was going through it before the show, and I was just absolutely floored at how close this is. Any team is capable of making it from where they are. So let's put that up on screen here.
Right.
So you'll see it's the top four that make it, and right now the top four is only separated by 9 points, with the unknown leading the pack at 59, the other guys at 55, Propane Gang is 51, and then For the Boys and Bad to the Bone are tied at 50 for the fourth spot right now. So you can see the plus and the minus is the amount of points that a team is in relation to the cutoff. So the unknown is 9 points above fourth place, and FTL in last place is only 4 points out of the playoff race right now. I mean, they could jump easily into the top four this week upcoming. And keep in mind, the amount of points in Pro is going to be fewer than what's in Legacy and Hero, just because it's only best of 3. So, 20-point week is impossible. But I think if we're doing the math real quick, so it's 3 points per match would be 15 plus 3 for the week win. So 18 would be a total sweep if you happen to win every match. So 18 points on the table means 36 points total the next 2 weeks. Any team is alive, very much so.
Right.
So you can see who they're playing on your screen as well. So the unknown, for example, is playing For the Boys this week and Bad to the Bone next week. So the first team on the left is who we're playing this week. And just going down the list here, I see a couple teams that have a bit of a tougher road. For example, For the Boys, they're in fourth right now, but they play the number 1 and the number 3 team upcoming in the next 2 weeks, which could be troublesome for them. Even if they get a few wins, that might not be enough for a team like Dr. Boom Shocklock, for example, who's playing FTL and Tap Blast, who are currently the bottom 2 teams. That might be tougher for the boys, to make their way into the playoffs. But is there any team here that you like? What's your lock? Who do you think is a guarantee to make the playoffs?
So I think the unknown is probably the most likely. They're doing the best. And also, the one thing that I will note is the 2 teams that are facing him are teams that are both improving over the last few. For the Boys went from being a pretty bad team the first 2 weeks to actually playing a lot better now. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it in. So I think the unknown schedule is surprisingly hard, even though it might not look.
Bad to the Bone being tied for fourth right now is definitely shocking to me, since they're the reigning champs.
Yes.
And I would look past the score for a matchup with them, because they're going to be capable of beating any team no matter what.
Yes. I would expect. I don't want to say this again, Donde. I've been putting my chip against you the whole time, but I don't think the other guys are going to make it. Even though you guys have a pretty good schedule, you are facing FTL. I think it will be hard, and it will be very competitive, and everyone's going to need a lot of points to make it.
Yeah, I think if you're one of the teams that are in that top echelon right now, other guys and the unknown having a little bit of separation, I think as long as you win your weeks, you'll be fine, even if they're close weeks. Maybe even if you don't win it, if you still put up like somewhere in the 10-point range, you should be safe. So we're 5 weeks into the season right now. If you look at like the other guys, for example, we're averaging 11 points a week. So I think if you keep that 10 to 11 point pace, you should be able to stay ahead of at least the players or the teams that are trying to just barely eke their way into the playoffs. So I think that should be your target if you're the unknown or the other guys, is make sure you get 10 or 11 points this week. And if you're Propane Gang for the boys, Bad to the Bone, or Dr. Boom Shakalaka, you want to win both these next 2 weeks, and Taplast and FTL probably want to try to sweep as many games as they can to pick up as many points as they can, since they're needing to make up a little bit of ground.
Yeah, all the mid teams, if they win both of their matchups, they are probably going to be qualified. So it's all about getting those wins, making sure you get as many points as possible, and just.
You still there, Lotus? You kind of cut off abruptly. I just want to make sure.
Oh, did I cut off?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No,
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think it's all about those middle teams keeping pushing and getting those wins, making sure they don't lose this.
So I'm going to go ahead and put my prediction on record of the 4 teams that I think are going to make the playoffs right now. And you're welcome to do the same if you would like. So
Sure.
So I know you're not on the other guys. I think we make it. I think the unknown makes it as well, despite the tough matchup in the final week against Bad to the Bone. I think they do enough this week to get themselves in position. I'm actually going to say Propane Gang drops out, with this week being tough against the other guys, and for the boys next week. I think for the boys is going to they're gonna hang on. I think they're gonna stick in that 4 spot, and I think Bad to the Bone jumps up to the 2nd spot with the other guys dropping to 3rd. So I'm gonna say unknown, Bad to the Bone, other guys for the boys would be my 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think it's similar, but I think instead of the others, I think Propane Gang makes it. I'm going to make a greedier bet since I'm betting against the 2nd place. I
think we lost you again.
Oh, sorry. So I think the ones who make it, I'm going to bet similar to you, but I think the unknown, Propane, for the boys, and Bad to the Bone make it. And I'm sorry, but other guys make it. Even though you guys are 2nd place, I feel like it's not the easiest schedule. And the other teams are going to put in a lot of work. But we'll see what will happen.
I will say, you're not wrong. The other guys, we do have 1 match played already this week against Propane Gang, which was a loss, unfortunately, for us. But I am playing tonight against Top Hat Demons, so we will have, hopefully, if all goes well, a win to counter that loss, which will at least keep us in the hunt. So I think after tonight we'll have a lot clearer picture whether or not we can make the playoffs. And I think it's literally just do a random number generator. So Dr. Boom Shakalaka is just right on the outside of it. I think out of the 3 teams that are not, being projected to make the playoffs right now, I would say the most likely to make it would be Dr. Boom Shakalaka based on the remaining schedule. But they've been underperforming, no offense, for the last 2 seasons. They were projected to do really well by me in particular, season 1, and they kind of disappointed. And you guys have pretty much, some of the same like bones of the team, and still haven't been able to quite put it together yet. So it is possible. I'm not saying it's impossible for you guys to get in the playoffs, but you got to show me something first. You got to show me the big win over the next 2 weeks here. Pond in the 2 seed is championships. I can confirm Pond beat me in the finals in Legacy in the 2 seed. Still salty. Still salty. Too soon. Any last thoughts about Pro before we move on to our final topic, which is the Week 6 preview?
No thoughts. It's just exciting time. Good luck to all the teams.
Absolutely. So, since we're talking about Pro right now, why don't we talk about the Pro matches for this week first?
Sure.
So, I had to, as I mentioned to you, I had to shift a little bit of your choices for our matches to cover this week, because one of them had already been played and one of them doesn't exist because of sub. So,
right.
There's no offense to you. I mean, you picked them yesterday and things changed. So Ron Mexico and twos, that's the unknown versus for the boys, and Smear versus Fuel. Now I like the fact that we can already see the classes, and if we go to the website, we can even see the decks specifically that Smear will be playing and Fuel will be playing. So this is the one series where Fuel has really still been crushing it this season, and it's a big order for Smear, I think, to get the win. But let's talk about Ron Mexico versus twos. We'll get to Smear and Fuel in a second.
Actually, Tues is saying he'll submit really quick, so we should start talking about Smear.
Yeah, so okay, let's talk about Smear and Fuel. Just looking at the lineups here, do you see a clear favorite, or do you think that it could be evenly matched? Like, what are your initial thoughts here?
So I thought, he's going with Control Warrior. This is an interesting lineup. Smear is going with a Control Warrior, Res Priest, N'Zoth Rogue. So he's kind of going anti-control.
N'Zoth Rogue, yeah.
While Fuel is going probably with Quest Druid, Highlander Hunter, Quest Druid, not Molly, just don't know me either.
That's been a cut lately. It seems like that was the cut for Kuhn, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure I love that cut. There is a combo priest.
Well, of course. Combo priest. So if you're going with like the more standard, this is the lineup that's been working even before the new meta, and Smear playing a few new decks.
I feel like this is quite a mismatch because they're bringing very different lineups. They're each trying to target something the other one is not doing. I think the Rogue is in a little bit of trouble, and so is the Priest. So I'm going to have to put this one for Fuel. I think Fuel is going to take it.
Now, as far as having two decks that are problems is an issue in this format, because if you have one deck that's a problem, you just bury it and you say, "Listen, I'm not playing this deck at all because it has bad matchups," and then you don't have to even bust it out. So having one deck that you take a risk with, I think, is okay. If you miss with two, that is a concern. So like you said there, Smear does have I haven't seen much of the N'Zoth Rogue. I don't really know what it is supposed to be targeting specifically. Do you have any insight to that one?
Well, N'Zoth decks in general are pretty good against Druid. And I think it might also beat Hunter.
Yeah, so I would assume that like the Kartut Defender is in there, and this is the Rogue's way of having like some survivability.
Right, and you also have the Doomsayer. You do have Backstab, which is still a great tempo tool.
Mm-hmm. I assume Shadow Steps for the N'Zoth, etc.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You end up playing so many N'Zoth.
Well, it sounds annoying already.
Yeah, I faced it on ladder. You do not want to face it.
Well, I will be looking forward to the first time I get to play against it. If anyone's listening, don't bring it against me this week, because I have no desire to learn on the fly.
Right.
So, okay, so it looks like twos is submitted. So twos and Ron Mexico. Let's talk about that match here.
Sure. Okay, so we have Paladin, Priest, Shaman, Warrior versus Druid, Hunter, Paladin, Shaman. Twos with a Paladin, Priest, Shaman, Warrior. Ron Mexico with a Druid, Hunter, Paladin, Shaman.
So the decks for Ron Mexico is the Highlander Paladin, the Quest Shaman with Evolve, the standard Druid, the standard Quest Druid, not the Malagos version, and then Highlander Hunter.
Right. Meanwhile, Twos brought his Control N'Zoth Warrior, Holy Wrath Paladin, Aggro Evolve Shaman, and Combo Priest.
Now, the Holy Wrath Paladin seemed to be in a lot of the Open Cup lineups that won or did very well, so I find that interesting. I don't know if that's just because people who like playing in these open cups tend to bring a lot of aggro, since it's going to last a while, and Holy Wrath is pretty okay against aggro if they draw their removal early. So maybe that's the thought process there. But I mean, it's been a consistently performing deck now for two metas.
Yeah, and it's doing even better. Thorison is quite the addition.
Very much, yeah.
And it's an addition for almost any deck, but it's really good in that one.
Yeah,
So,
any deck that wants to decrease the cost of its spells or its cards, Thorison is a must include in, something like Shirvala, or even, getting to some of the really higher cost spells and stuff that's in the deck a little bit quicker is always welcome.
yeah, I feel like Choose is favored in this one. I think just his overall decks look better to me. They look a bit stronger against what Ron Mexico is bringing. I'm looking forward to see what happens if I'm surprised.
I think I wouldn't sleep on the Highlander Paladin that Ron Mexico is bringing.
Right.
It's a surprisingly good deck. There's a lot of different versions of it. Like his has Commander Risa in it, which is not in all of them. And it's a little bit more stacked heavily in the secret category.
Yes.
Here this is not like hiding any info. Like my decks are already viewable on the website. I am bringing a Highlander Paladin as well, which is not as heavy on the secrets, but still gets that nice benefit of the Mysterious Challenger, which is a card that I did not get to play very much with, as I just started playing right around the time that TGT was starting up. So I was totally free to play. Never got a single Mysterious Challenger, so it's kind of cool to be that jerk. So I do still like Ron Mexico's lineup a little bit here. So I think we're split on our expectations for this match. But yeah, this one should be close. I think a 2-1 in favor of Ron Mexico is my pick.
I think it will be a 2-1 for Toos, but we're going to see.
So no sweeps. No sweeps is the call. All right. Let's talk about Legacy. We went light on most of the games this week. Didn't pick too many from each series, but this will kind of allow us to get a little bit of everything.
Right.
So the matches this week. Two of them from Dad Legend versus Distubs is Lawful Dog subbing in versus Shim Jim. So that's a pretty hype match. And then Yellow Dart is going to play Comp. Comp, of course, 5-0 right now. So he is, the number one ranked player in Legacy.
Right.
And then we're going to talk about Matty Ebbs for the Wet Boys versus Ghost of Abejas. And that is a 3-seed matchup, I believe.
4?
3 or 4?
I think it is a 4, but I might be wrong.
Either way, that is
4.
4 seed. Okay. Yep, Maddie's been having a great season. Ghost is a solid player. I think
yes.
Without seeing any of the classes revealed or anything right now, we are kind of throwing darts a little bit. But I wouldn't sleep on Ghost, and the PR difference is actually fairly pronounced, despite the fact that Maddie is the stronger record at the moment.
Yeah, I think both Matty Evs versus Ghost and Yellow Dart versus Comp have very similar situations, where you have a player who's definitely playing below his usual level, or below his typical PR level, versus a player who's doing really well this season. So it's interesting to see that kind of match.
Yeah, and the Yellow Dart, I think, is a much better player than the 2 and 3 records, so Comp should not take Yellow Dart lightly, not that he would.
Yes.
And Yellow actually, big win, he was the person that knocked Jammies off in Hero Series, different series, of course, but definitely a potent player who can beat anybody. That being said, I still like Comp. He hasn't really showed any weakness yet this season, only one game loss, let alone matches, so gotta be favored Comp. Lawful Dog, I guess, if anything, maybe Shim Jim's got the advantage because he's been playing Conquest in THL this season, whereas this is Lawful Dog's first experience this season. I guess I tend to lean a little bit to the players who have been playing in the meta as far as closed list THL, since it's such a unique format.
Right. Yeah, I think Shinjin has the advantage, but I would not just concede it to Lawful Dog. It's
No,
going to
absolutely
be,
not.
yeah, it's going to be a good match. Hopefully that one is on stream.
Not that I know of. Let us know if you can play on stream. We'll get you there. So let's talk Hero.
Mm-hmm.
We have got two matches here. So Jammies versus Liquid Ox. So see if the if Jammies can bounce back this week. And Blue Spartan versus Ron Mexico. ATL versus Bees, the actual English Bees. So we just talked about Ron Mexico versus Twos. So Blue Spartan, this is a different format. Blue has been, I think, only playing Hero for the majority of the last few seasons, if not, exclusively so. But yeah, I think that's a great match against kind of a player Ron Mexico who's been doing well in all series versus a specialized player who does very well in Hero. And then Jammies, of course, looking to get back on the horse against Liquid Ox. I have no doubt that he will be ready to go this week. He has been. He's actually got accepted into a certification class for his. He's like social working, like psych social working. I forget exactly what he called it. So he's been preoccupied a little bit with that, and he's ready and back to play this week. So excited to see Jamie's ready to do well for the bigs in a big match.
Right. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on these matches?
I think Blue Spartan versus Ron Mexico is just a super tight match. I can see it going any number of ways, so that is a match to watch for sure. Liquid Ox is not a 2-3 player as in the 393 PR range, so I expect him to be growing. As much as Jammies is having an insane season, I have to give this to Liquid Ox because I feel that he's just a really solid player.
I think what I'm worried about there is that mage. I'm not sure how well it works in a last hero standing lineup. I guess it could be, obviously we're not sure if it's highlighter or if it's tempo mage, but I personally have not been loving the tempo mages, and they've kind of fallen out of favor pretty quickly.
So I can't say much, but I can say being high rolled by some mage.
Oh, it happens.
3 matches in a row is not fun. Definitely not fun. But it happens.
All right. And finally, let's talk about two of our challenger games, which you'll notice the format of the the image is a little bit different. I was actually kind of surprised, like the challenger page does not look the same as the other pages.
Right.
So when I was doing a graphic, I was like, oh man, this does not work for the typical graphic I like to do. So it looked kind of gooberish. That's okay. So we're gonna talk about Dano versus Skittles and Lawful Dog versus Catman. Lawful Dog, we just talked about a little bit earlier, and as Pawn mentions, Lawful has been playing qualifiers, which is exactly what this is, and Catman has been dominating in Legacy right now. So 5-0 versus a player who's been playing quite a few in this format. So what are your initial thoughts there, Lawful Dog versus Catman?
I think Lawful Dog has been playing a ton of qualifiers, which is exactly what you can do to prep for this format. So as much as Catman has been having a stellar season and is a very solid player, I think I have to give it to Lawful Dog. Definitely one of the strongest matches in Challenger this week.
Yeah, I think this one will set the tone for, one of these players will get a boost, obviously, to 1-0 in the Swiss format that will help them get into the top 8, but I don't think even a loss for one of them would eliminate either of them. They're strong enough to make their way back up the Swiss ladder, so to speak. I would imagine in a 32-person format with a top 8, you probably can't suffer more than one loss and expect to make the top 8.
No, you probably need to make at most one loss. 2 if you're lucky, but I would not go higher than that.
Well, after just with my math here, so obviously there can only be 16 players at 1-0 this week, which means there's only 8 at 1-0 or 2-0, which means there's only going to be 4 at 3-0, which means there'll be 2 players who win all 4 of their matches in the Swiss round. So that means there's 6 spots left beyond the undefeated players, and I would imagine all of those go to one-loss players, of course, and even some of the one-loss players probably won't make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I still think if you have one loss, your chance is very high. Only one, but it's going to be only one or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, especially if your one loss is against one of the 4-0 players or another 3-1 player, give yourself a strong tiebreak option. But it's you never want to count yourself out. It's worth still playing your
Right.
matches, even if you think you might not have the tiebreaker, because you never know what can happen in the other matches. So Dano versus Skittles
Right.
being the other match here. Dano, a newer player. Actually, both these players are newer to THL. I believe this is Dano's first season, and I know it's Skittles' first season. So this should be a pretty awesome match too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be a great match. Skittles has been doing super well. I'm looking forward to playing him this week, and I think he's going to do a good job in Challenger. I think this is a hype match.
Yeah, I did run into Skittles on in one of the qualifiers, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. It was the weekend I did well in the qualifiers, not this past weekend where I got trashed all over the place. Apparently, I like the last meta better. What can I say? And yeah, we had a good match there and talked for a bit as well. So, wishing the best to both the players. I don't know much about Dano. Skittles. Yep. I think I know Skittles has been practicing this format, so I got to give it. I got to give the advantage to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, that's everything we want to talk about tonight. So, any last second comments on anything so far that we mentioned this evening, Lotus, or any other questions in chat? I know Pond is saying that it should be 6 players that are either 3-1 or 4-0, so there will be two lost players. So, okay, that's the better math than I could do quickly, I suppose. So I will take your word for it and say so. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you were even got one win going into the final week of the Swiss, you should still be hopeful that you can make the top 8.
Mm-hmm. Talk about Linus. For which series would you like to talk about it? And I did manage to not say the L word. It was at the top of my tongue, but
Yeah, no, it just takes a few weeks to get used to not saying it very much.
right. Um,
So,
I
I mean, if we
feel
want
like
to,
a lot of the. Should we
sorry.
just go over the classes we expect to be around?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like the difference obviously between Legacy, Conquest, and Hero, Last Hero Standing. Conquest is obviously going to favor flexible classes, which has been Warrior, has
Yes.
been Paladin, has been Shaman. So I would expect to continue to see Paladin, Warrior, and Shaman in those lineups for Conquest. And now that Priest has a viable
Right.
secondary deck, Priest was already getting brought a lot. It's only going to get brought more now that Res Priest is a thing too.
Yeah, I would expect Priest to just be more common now. I would not ignore Rogue either, because Rogue seems to be putting in great results. I was playing a lot of ladder yesterday, and there was a ton of Rogue around. Rogue is one of the few classes that can kind of counter Shaman. It's not a great counter, but they win a good amount.
Skittles asking about Challenger specifically. So Challenger specifically, we talked about Combo Priest still continues to be very strong against most decks. So I would expect Combo Priest to still be there. Highlander Hunter, I think, is a common include in a lot of lineups, not every lineup.
Right.
And then basically choose your adventure with Shaman because there's so many viable Shaman decks out there right
Yeah.
now.
I expect to see a lot of aggro warrior, aggro shaman, Highlander hunter, and actually, I think Challenger is going to have a lot of tempo rogue, especially after the first week.
Well, we did see Rogue a few times already in what's been submitted, so that's not surprising too. It's a deck that really, if you're playing the Tempo Rogue, hasn't really changed much into this meta. I can't think of too many cards that it would have included that came from the Doom and the Tomb.
Well, Swashbuckler was quite a big addition.
That's true. Swashbuckler's the one. There was one in my head. I couldn't think of
And
what it was.
Shaku is not bad. Shaku the Collector is still a if you ever get turn 1 Swashbuckler, turn 2 Underbelly Fencer is really good.
Yeah, that's something that card in particular was missing. There wasn't a consistent turn 1 give me a card from my opponent's class or a random card
Yes.
from any other class type of card. So yeah, that is now definitely a buff to Underbelly Fence.
Yes, that card is way better right now, and it is a 3/4 rush on 2, which reminds me of a certain totem. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. Glad they didn't bring that one back.
Yeah.
Glad they didn't bring that one back.
We all remember it.
We could have had some riots on our hands. Shaman's already good enough. Doesn't need that. So.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been insane.
So yeah, I'm excited to see what Challenger brings here in the first week of the season. So that should be fun to watch. The one series I'm personally not playing in, so I am just going to be a fan instead of a player, which is cool. So good luck to everybody in Challenger, and good luck, of course, to everyone playing in any series this week, as we always do wish. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for being here, Lotus, as always. It's always fun to talk with you about the matches, about the lineups, etc. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me as usual. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you have not done so, it is always much appreciated to drop a sub. If you have Twitch Prime, that is free, so it's cool. You get one of those. If you spend it with us, we love you because you're a good person. It helps us continue to bring better content to the league, better off-season events with prizes. Did I mention prizes? Prizes. And then make sure to turn the notifications on so when we do go live, you know that we go live if you're not in Discord when I tell you we go live. So thanks again for being here. Good luck, everybody. We will see you next week. Please tune in to Tavern Talk tomorrow. And last but not least, if you have not and you would like to if you have not messaged us and want to be on stream, please let us know. We will be happy to fit you in. So thanks for being here. For Lotus and our absent icon, I'm Donde, and we will see you next week. Have a great night.
See